This is way worse than we thought, as we have a major injury update on Hunter Dobbins, and it is not good at all. We tell you what the injury is and what's next for the Boston Red Sox, including some starting pitcher trade targets to replace Dobbins. Welcome in here to Red Sox Digest. We're happy you're here, and unfortunately, we wish we could be here to give you some better news, but it's believed to be the end of the line this season for Hunter Dobbins due to an injury he suffered last night. We'll get to that in just a moment, but before you get going, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Obviously, when news like this happens, we're getting a video out to you ASAP. So if you want all your news, information, and updates on the Boston Red Sox in one place, we are your one-stop shop. Go down there and hit that subscribe button. It's 100% free. If you missed last night's game, first of all, you missed one of the games of the year with Rafael walking it off in the bottom of the ninth with a two-run shot. But early on in the game, Hunter Dobbins, who was returning in his first start back from an elbow injury, was an inning and a third in when a ground ball was hit to Abraham Toro at first base. Toro grabbed it and kind of gave a little bit of a lob up to Hunter Dobbins, who leaped up in the air to grab the ball, came down on the bag, and immediately had this kind of grimace on his face. Now, he kind of bent over onto his knees, and the training staff came out. He was able to walk back over to the mound, but when he threw one pitch, it was obvious his night was done. Now, at the time, though, we didn't exactly know the severity of this injury. It was believed that it was just a lower leg soreness, and that potentially, hopefully, it was just going to be a 15-day IL stint, just like he just had, and he'd be back, a little bit after the All-Star break. Obviously, you get a little break here, it'd be perfect. And then this report came out this morning from Chris Cotillo saying, bad news. The initial belief is Hunter Dobbins suffered a significant knee injury last night, potentially with ACL damage, sources say. Red Sox are still assessing the severity, but the initial read is that this is no minor injury. This was at 9 in the morning, and unfortunately, after that report came out, the Red Sox, just a little bit later, had this to say. They're placing right-handed pitcher Hunter Dobbins on the 15-day IL with a right ACL tear. And to fill his spot, Boston recalled right-handed pitcher Richard Fitts from AAA Worcester. So unfortunately, with the ACL tear, Hunter Dobbins' season is over, and it's a very unfortunate end to what was a very good season from Hunter Dobbins, kind of rising from the ashes. Obviously, Quinn Priester being traded opened up that extra spot for him to come up and shine, and although he battled some injuries, he performed very well. And this season, unfortunately, though, will end with his ERA at 4.13, and the 25-year-old going into now his 26th season next season after an ACL tear. Hopefully he'll be back better than ever. I honestly don't know what the next kind of plan for him is, because obviously it depends next season who's on the staff with the Boston Red Sox, if he will come back and regain a starting role. I mean, obviously Lucas Giolito could come back next year, but Walker Buehler is probably not. There's a bunch of questions still lying in the air, but either way, an 800 win percentage for Hunter Dobbins as a rookie. I mean, that's just something you don't see. And obviously, he was emotional after it and kind of got to talk about it this morning, and he said this when talking about his injury, quote, "I knew what happened. You're trying to come out here and compete with these guys, trying to win games, and then just to know that you're done for the year, it's pretty tough," end quote. So that kind of explains the body language of Hunter Dobbins, because he seemed to think it was more important, but on the initial play, if you go back and watch it, it doesn't look like it's that big a deal. He grabs his knee, but with ACL tears, it's something that it pops and you feel it, but you kind of almost deny it in your own head. And it stinks, but unfortunately now that's the reality for Richard Fitts, that his season is done, and it's going to be up to the rest of this staff now to kind of figure out what is next in line. Now, obviously, there's a bunch of guys that we can look to. We can first look at Richard Fitts, who is going to take his spot on this season. He's 8-8, 1-3. His ERA is 4.28, so pretty similar. But for whatever reason, his record just isn't backing. And I think a lot of reason is he doesn't get a lot of run supports. But 28 Ks to 10 strikeouts is a lot better than last season, having 4 appearances and striking out 9, having 7 walks. So definitely doing better this season in a lot of different aspects. But Fitts and Dobbins were kind of fighting for that 5th spot, and now it's Richard Fitts for now. I mean, we look at the depth chart for the Boston Red Sox, and their starting 5 just became a starting 5 legitimately, because they only have 5 pitchers that we've seen in the majors this season. Garrett Crochet is obviously your number 1. Walker Buehler, Brayan Bello, Lucas Giolito, and Richard Fitz. I thought we would see Tanner Houck, to be quite frank at this time, but to me it seems like they're preparing for him to be a bullpen role because Tanner Houck has been in the Red Sox dugout. It seems as though he has pitched his last rehab start, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's one coming after the All-Star break, but maybe he's going to come back as a reliever is the only thing that I can see at this point. And it's really hard to kind of sit here and look at this starting rotation and wonder what the Red Sox do. Do they need to trade for somebody? And that's the question that I ask you. Do the Red Sox now need to make a trade for a starting pitcher after the Hunter Dobbins injury? I want you to let me know down in the comment section if this is a yes and you think you need a fifth guy or just somebody to help this rotation out, or if you believe that we can be fine with what we have. We're going to talk about some different trade options here in today's show. It's a very interesting situation, and it really stinks because, you look at Hunter Dobbins and see the stuff that he's been able to do, and even up until, yesterday, he had that one run after that first inning walk, but got out of a pretty decent jam in the first inning, immediately was getting 2 quick outs in the second before he obviously got injured, and so it's hard, but now you, as a baseball organization, have to look to, okay, what is exactly next? And that's where we kind of go to the possible trade targets that have been listed on the MLB trading block. There's guys like Joe Ryan, Sandy Alcantara, Mitch Keller, Andrew Heaney, Seth Lugo, Zach Gallen. There's a lot of guys on this list. Zach Gallen has not had a good year. Neither has Sandy Alcantara. But in the past, they have been definitely, Cy Young level type pitchers. In fact, Sandy obviously winning the Cy Young back in 2022. So what do the Red Sox do? Is this something they go after? We heard the reports about Joe Ryan. We heard that a package would probably include one of Jarren or Wilyer Abreu and probably a couple prospects. Is it going to be worth it to go out and get somebody like a Joe Ryan who you would have under control until the end of the 2027 season? Or do you go for a lesser deal like, again, Sandy also has control until, I believe, the 2027 season as well. But, some of these guys are going to be rentals. I believe Andrew Heaney has the 1-year deal with Pittsburgh, so he's going to be a rental. Just certain guys that are only going to be 1-year fits on there. And so we first look at Sandy Alcantara. This year, again, 7.22 ERA. He has been nowhere near that Cy Young level we saw back in 2022, 2023 before his Tommy John surgery that made him miss all of last season. Coming back, we kind of all expected more, and unfortunately he just hasn't been that. I think that, honestly, since spring training, I've looked at him as a really big Red Sox trade target coming down the stretch because when you looked at this team from the outside in spring training, the lineup wasn't the concern, especially, even without Rafael Devers now, the lineup is not the concern. They're scoring at a pretty prolific rate, and I honestly love what the offense is doing. It's the pitching staff that I trust, but it's how much can they work is kind of where I'm sitting here. Like guys like Garrett Crochet, he pitched a lot last season, but he has not had a full season of work under his belt as a starting pitcher. If you remember last season with the White Sox, they limited his second half rate. I believe he only pitched like 35 innings in the second half, something like that. So he, again, I'm not saying that I expect him to go and, not have a great second half, but we do have to understand that he hasn't pitched an entire complete MLB season, and that's something to look for. Walker Buehler has had injury history, including this season. Brayan Bello has looked great. I honestly cannot say anything about Brayan Bello and the starts that he's had pretty much from mid-May on. He has just been absolutely electric. Obviously, the last CG, I'm going to call it a CG shutout. The 2-run home run is whatever. Hunter Goodman, I don't really care too much about it. I know technically it's not a shutout, but either way, love him. But it's the question of what exactly do you trust from these guys? So obviously Sandy Alcantara would be a very good one, but also about Joe Ryan, who's a guy that, from what I'm hearing, and if you watch or listen to the Section 10 podcast, Jared Carrabis had an interesting quote on the whole Joe Ryan thing. Obviously, he is a guy who is not 30 years old yet. His ERA is insane. He's an all-star going in here. He's like the perfect pitcher for Craig Breslow, and he's under control for the next 2-3 seasons. But according to Jared Carrabis and kind of the Red Sox media, that was something that was really hot about a week ago, and since then has now fizzled off. Now, John Morosi had the MLB Network quote, I believe it was this past Tuesday, Wednesday area. However, it seems as though that's not really a thing anymore. I think the Twins were like, oh yeah, we're thinking about this, and that's not, I don't really want to trade him. Doesn't seem like a good idea for us. And so I would be hesitant to say that Joe Ryan is a huge option, but I think, again, for the right price, you could get him, but at the same time, is a guy like Joe Ryan really worth it? Like, can you trust this pitching staff? In my opinion, the Joe Ryans, the Sandy Alcantaras would be great, but I'm looking at a guy like maybe an Andrew Heaney, and I don't have his stats pulled up, but he's had a fantastic year. A Mitch Keller wouldn't be a bad option. First of all, and this is no knock on the Pirates, their organization is not the greatest, and I don't think we would have to give a crazy amount of value to get one of those two pitchers. The other thing, those are not, those are going to be more rental options. Mitch Keller has some years on his deal, but I believe Andrew Heaney is just that 1 year contract. I wouldn't mind bringing him. He's had a great season this year. I think his value would be very minimal. I mean, you're talking a Yohansson Garcia and maybe a David Sandlin is kind of the thoughts that I have, but it's a curious situation the Red Sox have kind of been put into. Obviously, I want to give my love out to Hunter Dobbins. It really stinks as a rookie. Like he said, he wants to come out here, wants to compete, and he knew it. I mean, when you have an ACL tear like that, you hear the pop, you know what happened, and you just try to almost push it down, deny it. But it's unfortunate, but the Red Sox as an organization now have to move on, and I want to know your thoughts. Should the Red Sox go out there and trade for Joe Ryan? Should the Red Sox not trade for anybody? Should they go for more of a rental option for less value from, their perspective and what they're giving back? Let me know down in the comments section, but for now, Red Sox are on an 8-game win streak. If they can continue this and, win these last 2 games against the Tampa Bay Rays to go into the break, pitching or not, this team's on a hot streak. So I'd like to see that, and, the hotter they get, the more likely we are to make a pretty big trade for a big reinforcement going down the stretch. We appreciate you tuning in, and for now, we'll see you next time here on Red Sox Digest. Peace out, guys.